Welcome to InChristNow.com, teaching the simple truth as it is in Christ Jesus. The title of this message is Goal of God. One of the most vital aspects of the new creation is knowing the goal of God in and for us. Learning to move on from our salvation and ticket to heaven, we should have the same goal as God does for our individual growth and development. So what is the goal of God? You see, we can only cooperate with God when we know what He is looking for to achieve both in and through us as His children. If we aren't in line with what He wants, then how can we get to where He wants us to be? Let's see what God is ultimately looking for in us. From Romans 8:29 in the New King James Version, it says, "For whom He foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, that He might be the firstborn among many brethren." Annie Cressman says it like this: He knew all along that He would choose them. He chose them to be made like His Son, that His Son would be the first one of many brothers. J.B. Phillips reads, "God in His foreknowledge chose them to bear the family likeness of His Son, that He might be the eldest of a family of many brothers." That we would be conformed to the image of His Son, to be made like His Son, bear the family likeness of His Son. The more time we spend in fellowship and communion with God, the more we are spending time to know Him, the more we are changed. The more we are changed into His image. The more we are changed into His image, the more He works in us to be like Him. The goal of God is not just our salvation. The goal of God is not just our redemption. The goal of God is not just our justification. The goal of God is that we would be glorified in Christ, transformed into the very likeness of Jesus Christ, to be like Him. When we allow God to have His way in us, He will be producing in us an exact replica of Christ. That was His intention for all humanity before creation itself. Let's look at Romans 8:30 from the New King James Version. "Moreover, whom He predestined, these He also called. Whom He called, these He also justified. And whom He justified, these He also glorified." The New Living Translation says, "And having chosen them, He called them to come to Him. And having called them, He gave them right standing with Himself. And having given them right standing, He gave them His glory." J.B. Phillips says, "He chose them long ago. When the time came, He called them. He made them righteous in His sight, and then lifted them to the splendor of life as His own sons." God has set these truths in eternity, and He is constantly at work in us to see that this word is forever established in us. His desire truly is to have many sons in the exact mold of Jesus Himself. He that has begun this great work in us will continue on until it is achieved, and there is no failure in God. This is the hope we have to look forward to as the life of God active in us is producing Christ Himself as its fruit. The end of our destination is the glorification He has given us in Christ to be like Him. Christ, the firstborn of many brothers and sisters. Look at 2 Corinthians 3:18 from the New King James Version. "But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as by the Spirit of the Lord." Annie Cressman says it like this: "All of us have no cloth over our faces. People can see that we have some of the bright and wonderful light that the Lord has, and we are becoming brighter and brighter, more and more like Him. It is the Lord, the Spirit, who does this." Ben Campbell Johnson's translation, my favorite, it says this: "With the veil lifted from our eyes, we see the ultimate goal of God reflected in Christ. And as we keep this vision before us, we are continually transformed by it. We move from one area of fulfillment to another as the Spirit of the Lord acts upon us." And as we keep this vision before us, what vision? Christ, all He is, all He has accomplished, all He is in us. We then are changed, transformed into His likeness as we keep our hearts focused on Him. Not on ourselves, not on our cares, not on our worries, not on our fears, not on our own life, but on Him. As we stay the course, run the race, and as we keep this vision before us, we are continually transformed by it. This is the true ultimate goal of God for each and every one of us, to be like Him. Think about it. Thank you for listening in. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. We encourage you to visit InChristNow.com for more teachings of the simple truth as it is in Christ Jesus.